Hi, everybody. How are you doing? I'm Effie Roth, and I am so honored. In fact, I'm nervous. I'll be quite honest with you. I am totally
I don't
nervous.
know why, broadcast professional.
Felicia Middlebrooks.
Hey, how are you? So good to see you.
Thank you. It's so great to see you too.
Yeah.
We miss you.
Thank you. That's so kind of you. Appreciate it. I really
Wow. I mean, you don't know how nervous I've been. I'm serious. Like I'm talking to, think about listening to you every day and
yeah.
then actually talking to you. I
Oh,
mean, millions of people listening to you, and then I get a chance to talk to you.
well, you
Man, that is
it's hard.
crazy.
We had times where we could really chat, at
Yeah.
work.
Yes.
And I always enjoyed you,
Right,
sweetheart.
right. And I mean, everybody, she talked to me, she spoke. I mean, she was nice. I mean, really, I mean, which was,
Why
but
would anybody think I wouldn't be nice?
a lot of people, this business, Felicia,
Yeah.
people, they have
Make
egos up
assumptions.
to,
Yeah.
heaven. I call him Jesus Jr. I mean, seriously. I think
Yeah.
sometimes people think it's like, who do you think you are, God? Hello?
Yeah.
But so when somebody is nice
It's a
and
job,
genuine,
Yeah, well, and grateful, very grateful,
oh, praise
I don't
God.
take anything for granted, never have.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, of course, let me just give you this is the reason I really wanted to talk to you because this is Women's
yeah,
History Month as we, come to a close.
yeah,
Like, who better to spotlight? And not that you need a spotlight because you're shining all the time, but just for, to remind people, it's like, it's not just the Coretta Scott Kings or, or
oh,
Michelle
God,
Obama. It's
yeah,
it's Felicia Middlebrooks.
I'm just in their shadows, believe me, really,
Well,
and
I mean,
grateful.
we're all a part of the puzzle, and I know you know
Yeah,
that. We're all a part of the puzzle, and we all need to be together working to, just make a beautiful tapestry. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
and lift each other up.
Yes, and
Yeah.
millions have listened to you for 35 years. But Felicia Middlebrooks, author, professor, filmmaker, CEO of Salt Shaker
Who's
Production.
that?
I'm
Who's that?
talking to you. And Morning Drive co-anchor, first woman and first African American woman to co-anchor on well, first of all, I think you're the one who made it top rated. No offense.
Oh, I can't take all that credit. No, 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 it takes a village, it
WBBM.
really does.
Wow.
Yeah,
But of course, you got your start at CBS. Well,
yeah.
in fact,
Well,
let's just
actually,
backtrack.
okay, so, and I'm getting older, so forgive me if I don't get my chronology correct. But actually, I started out in Indiana. So
Okay.
by the time I came to Chicago as a very young intern
Mhm.
at Channel 2 under the
Right.
great Harry Porterfield, um, I had worked at four different radio stations before I got to Chicago.
Okay.
So I think it was 23, 24 years old
Mm.
and got the internship. After the internship, um, wow, I should probably back up even before then because I was a steel worker. I had gone to Purdue University's main campus in West Lafayette for 3 years, made it to my junior year and ran out of money.
Oh,
So I
wow.
came
Right.
home. Yeah. And at the time I thought it was the worst thing that could have ever happened, but it turned out to be the biggest blessing.
Oh, wow.
And so that's where I picked up all my radio experience because, I was working my way through school as a steel worker and working at various radio stations in Northwest Indiana. So by the time I came to came to CBS and the internship, I was working at WLTH radio in Gary.
I remember.
At the internship, was finishing up school. And after that, they hired me to answer telephones in the newsroom. And I, came up where my family, my parents always raised us with great work ethic. And I was just appreciative just to get my foot in the door. And
Mm.
then after that, they hired me to be a desk assistant. So then I was a desk assistant. Then I was working at WJOB radio in Hammond at this time. And then I started working part-time at BBM radio, 1983. I was
Wow.
overnight freelance anchor, I'd
Oh,
fill in for
wow.
people who called in sick. And it was fantastic. I was tired, but I was young and I was hungry and I really wanted to become a reporter. That was my dream. Yeah.
Mm. what is that song? I think it's secular, but it started on the bottom. Now I'm on top.
or something like that.
You got the news bug. You got the
Yeah,
newsroom
I
bug.
from I was from when I was a kid. I
Wow.
was in the 6th grade on the school newspaper. I was on the school newspaper all through high school.
Mm.
And then, I didn't know what a vision board was at the time, but I remember going to Walgreens and getting a box of Clairol hair color because I wasn't dyeing my hair, but there was this Black woman who was a reporter. She was, she had her microphone, and I thought, I want to be her. I want to be like
Oh,
that. So I bought the box of hair color. I don't even know what color it was. And I cut it out, threw the hair dye out, and I pasted it on the wall. And I look at her, and God blessed me over the years, and I became that reporter.
and
So
this is what grade? How old were you then when you did this vision board?
I was in junior high, I think, at the
Wow.
time.
So a
Yeah.
visionary even then.
Well, I knew, I was fortunate to know that's what I wanted to do at a very young age. I know a lot of people struggle with that.
Mm.
In adulthood, what am I here for? What am I
Hello.
doing?
And definitely not thinking about vision boards in
Yeah, well, I
junior
didn't know
high
what that
school.
was. I didn't know what that was, but
Wow.
I'm telling you, it works. I mean, because
Well, it definitely works for you. Tell me this. Okay.
work for
Yeah, I know you
everybody.
worked at CBS, Channel 2, doing reporting.
Yes. No, 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 no. I was never a reporter at CBS 2. I was a desk assistant, a telephone operator.
Okay.
And did some behind the scenes stuff. I was, I had the good fortune of producing Someone You Should Know, a segment that Harry Porterfield
Oh,
did.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I did.
So how did you jump
Did
from, I'm sorry,
I
can you
lose
hear
you?
me?
I
No,
can hear you, but I can't see you.
you can't see me?
I cannot.
Okay, I am here and I see you.
You see me? Well,
I
something
see
happened to a little
you.
connection. Okay. Well, we'll
Okay,
just keep it going.
we're just gonna pretend because we see each.
Okay.
How did you jump from okay, basically walk into a co-anchor position, the
Well,
first woman, the
I
first African American woman in the country, in the
didn't
city?
I didn't just walk into it, I can assure you that.
But that's huge though.
But
That's still huge.
it is huge. But so what I can tell you is that you know how somebody says, "Oh, you were an overnight sensation." No, I really was not.
Okay.
I did a lot of hard work. Now, I will tell you in truth, it was never my dream to be a co-anchor of Morning Drive because I didn't know how to dream that big. I
Mhm.
just wanted one job, and I wanted to be a street reporter and anchor.
Okay.
So, so you know, I really believe, and it's true because I've lived it all my life, that God's dream for you is much bigger than anything you can
Yes.
ever imagine. And
Yes, it
so,
is.
after I'm doing all this, had 3 jobs, and I just wanted one job. So finally, let me just fast forward that I was hired full time for BBM Radio, at which time they told me I had to quit my radio reporting job in Northwest Indiana, and I also had to quit my desk assistant job. I couldn't do all of that, so I was in radio full time, street reporter, weekend anchor, and I was happy as a clam. And
Wow.
in New York, the head of CBS decided to do something groundbreaking, extremely progressive, especially for that time, because women always got short shrift and were thought not to be credible. So he decided that he wanted to shake up the all male paradigm, and he wanted to put a woman with a guy, co-anchor team in Morning Drive, and Chicago
Okay.
was the test case. That was, I was the guinea pig, basically.
Well,
They
thank
had
God it
audition.
worked.
I'm sorry.
It worked.
Yeah, thank goodness. Oh, but so I auditioned, and they told me, if you don't get Morning Drive, we'll give you afternoon drive. So it'll be a win-win either way, but the network will decide. It was not decided locally. So I did the best that I could, and I just forgot about it. And one day I get this call, you've been chosen. And I don't think, I was so young, I didn't realize the gravity of what had happened. Um, but it was very difficult being accepted in that role because I experienced racism, I experienced ageism and sexism. No woman has any business being in morning drive. So I think what prepared me, and I believe I was uniquely prepared to be the guinea pig, because as a steel worker, my younger sister and I worked in the mill together. We were the first two women to work at the #3 sheet mill for Jones and Laughlin Steel, which used to be Youngstown Sheet and Tube.
Mhm.
And that was difficult at first, but I came from a family with all girls. And so doing hard work was never a thing. That's the way my dad, raised us, tough, like guys. And so we didn't shun any hard work. And so I think that came as a surprise to some of the men.
Mm.
And once they realized that we were not going to be asking them to lift this and lift that for us, then they were cool.
Okay.
When you're driving on the expressway and you see trucks with steel coils on them, you ever see
Mhm.
that?
I do.
I was a floor bundler, so I was one of the people that would strap that coil in steel strapping to keep it from unraveling if it should be, lost in transit, or be involved with a car accident or something like that, so it wouldn't unravel. And so that was my job. And you got steel splinters in your hands, and it was rough, greasy, very dirty.
Yeah.
Um, but it didn't bother me at all, because in Northwest Indiana, it's commonplace. It was at
Mhm.
that time for people to work in the mill, and it was a means to an end, so that I'd have the money that I needed to put myself back in school. So it took 7 years to finish my bachelor's degree. But in that 7 year period, I was able to get experience working for other radio stations by the time I came to Chicago. So
Wow.
it was an incredible experience, a gift. um, I was given a seat at the table, which is rare. And I tried to use that seat to empower other people, empower women, empower minorities, African Americans. I did everything I could possibly do.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a story. I mean, and to think that you worked in the steel mill, and that's a hard job, what you're saying.
Yeah,
That's
sure, it is a
hard.
great job, but you do what you got to do. I was grateful. It was great money. I was still living at home. I was able to save and go to
Mm.
school. So
Okay.
and I didn't have student loans, hanging over my head at the end of the day.
Sweet.
It was
Sweet.
hard. Yeah.
Okay, so you're at WBBM. You said you experienced ageism. Now I can imagine, you're right. Here you are, this young lady
Yeah.
walking in.
That was it.
Most times I think people think of ageism as when you're, 50,
Right.
60, but because you
Right.
were so young. And let me
Yeah.
say this real quick so people will know. In radio, most times the woman is considered, especially in
Hmm.
music formats, but or talk, you're considered the sidekick.
Sidekick.
But
Yeah.
here you
And
are.
that's disgraceful. But
Yeah, but it happened all the time.
it does. And it's something I never understood, Effie. Radio is television's big sister, really, but
Hmm.
they're so much farther ahead than we are. Radio still has this antiquated idea about women, that we're throwaways.
I know.
It's crazy. I don't know what can be done other than replacing the people who do the hiring. People who do the hiring in these positions um, need to be open-minded and see
Yeah,
women as equal,
yeah.
see African Americans as equal. And, Black and brown people should be getting the same opportunities as everybody else.
Wow.
I don't understand that. It's been that way for ages, and I've never understood it.
Tell me this, when when did it really hit you that I am the co-anchor at the top market, well, one of the third largest market in the country?
You know,
First,
I will tell you honestly, I was very grateful,
mhm,
but it was not easy, because I had a lot of people who were working against me, who
mhm,
were betting on my failure, and a lot of people who let me know that they didn't want me there. So it was
really,
not, um, as fun as you make it sound like it is. It's a great accomplishment, and I was
right,
grateful. But honest to God, I didn't really get to enjoy my job until I had been working 7 to 10 years. And then I
really.
really started to get in a groove and really enjoy it, because I felt like I was always constantly being questioned and doubted. Um, and it was difficult. Now, I will say this: I had phenomenal managerial support.
Oh, good.
Um, they were totally in my corner. They were taking a big chance, and this was groundbreaking, you know. And when the experiment in Chicago with me worked, then they decided to appoint women to co-anchor positions in New York, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Detroit. So I would have women who were in those roles calling me crying, you know, saying, you know, the guys won't let me do this, or how did you manage to do
Mhm.
that? And I think what helped me again is my background, having always worked with guys, you know,
Mm.
and having no brothers, and having a really pretty cool dad who was progressive in his thinking. And
Mhm.
you know, he was a big union guy, and so that taught me when I joined SAG-AFTRA, what was AFTRA at first and then SAG-AFTRA. I never missed a union meeting. You know, I was always pro-union, and so I learned those things early, and I think that prepared me to survive. That, along with my very strong faith in God.
Wow.
It's, you know, there's a place for everybody, but you have to deal with, you know, office politics, and you know, and like everybody else does. But I was there to do a job, and I just stayed focused. I tried to um, stay focused and humble, you know, because it was a big deal.
It really was. And I and
Yeah.
I and I and I can imagine, because here you are almost like coming out of nowhere. I know you're at Channel 2,
Well,
but
but see, people didn't know me. When you say nowhere, it was because I
what
came
in
from
terms of
Indiana.
Chicago? Chicago
Right,
though.
right, right, right.
Because keep in
But
mind, I
you
mean,
have to start somewhere. I mean, I mean, who here in Chicago started in Chicago?
this is
You
true.
know,
This is
very
true.
rare. You had to come from somewhere.
And I'm just trying to let people know how the egos are in this industry. So,
Yeah,
so I can imagine, people looking at you. First of all, you're young, you're
yeah,
female, you're
yes,
African American.
exactly. I had all that working for me. You know, but here's the thing. At no time could anyone say that I was incapable of doing the job. That was important. I
Yes.
can take the racism, I can take the sexism, you know, you're in the skin, it's part of the course. But I did not want anyone to say, or you know, be able to say that, you know what, she's just in that job and they just placed her there, you know, because I could bring it, you know. And that's the thing. I didn't get much sleep at all, and it was funny when I got that one job, you know, when they hired me full time
Okay.
at BBM. I thought now I can get some sleep because I was doing two other jobs on top
Wow.
of that. But boy, did I not know that, you know, I was going to end up in morning drive. But it was a lot of work preparing myself. I didn't know I was going to end up in morning drive, but I worked really hard.
Mm.
And then in morning drive, we used to do a lot of live interviews, and you never knew who was going to be on the news line. So I wanted to prepare myself. So, you know, let it not be said that I didn't know what I was talking about. And
Yes.
in that job, you have to know a little bit about everything. So I made sure I subscribed to every newspaper in existence. I looked at every network. I watched BBC, you know, and I'd stay up watching Nightline every night and having to be at work at 3:30 in the morning. So I got very little sleep, but I wanted to make sure that I was prepared and I was on my game, because I didn't want anybody, you know, there was so much room for criticism. See, you know, you put a woman in there and she can't handle it, or you put an African American in there and they can't handle it.
Mhm.
And so I had a lot riding on my shoulders,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of pressure for someone that young.
Yeah,
So
but for 35 years, you
yeah.
handled it, and you handled it
Oh,
well.
praise God.
Praise God.
I didn't do that alone, I'm telling you.
And I'm sure you probably made a lot of people in that newsroom and the industry really come up. And I mean, because you are a woman of excellence.
Well,
And
that's
just
very kind of
your
you.
hard work.
You
I mean,
know,
like you said, you read newspapers, you made sure you kept up
yeah,
with current events. So
yeah,
you
had
were,
to.
just a hard worker.
I had to. You know, I wanted to earn that privilege, that honor that was given me.
Mhm.
And then I have to tell you that I had a lot of people who raised me in the
Okay.
industry. You know, a lot of older reporters and anchors, and from every stripe, and they gave me advice. And the days where I was discouraged, they helped me. I remember early on, I thought I might want to go into television, and at Channel 2, they were so incredibly helpful. When you were a desk assistant, they wanted you to do well. So, everybody would help you. You could go out with other reporters and shoot your story next to theirs, and get advice from them on your stand-ups and all of that. And I remember one Saturday evening, I was on a desk assistant shift at Channel 2, and I did an anchor tape. And they were like, yeah, that's great. Send it out. Do you know, I never sent it out. I
Yeah.
never applied for a job. You know why? Because I was scared somebody would hire me. And then
And
what
they
do I
probably
do?
would have. And they probably would have.
And then what do I do? So, because people sometimes say, well, you were in radio. Did you ever want to do television? I didn't know which I wanted to do initially, but I just kept getting radio jobs, and I thought, maybe I better stick with radio,
Wow.
and then it was a great decision. I haven't looked back since.
Most definitely. I mean, to think every morning people waking up to Felicia Middlebrooks and her co-host or
Yeah,
co-anchor
yes, yeah, there
every
was
morning.
John Holtman was my first,
Oh,
and
he's
then
so good. He's still good.
wonderful, wonderful, and then Ken Herrera, and then Pat Cassidy, who I
Mm,
ended my career with, and they were great guys. I learned so much from our colleagues. Iron sharpens iron,
mm,
and I work with some
true.
of the best. And in radio, um, you have to be a great storyteller. You have to know how to write well. And even though all of us secretly envied NPR because they really got to tell a story, long form
Right, right.
program, which was just incredible, and they do a great job. But with us, we have to be superb writers because you have to tell a story in 45 seconds. It's really hard to do. You might get 50 seconds if it's really, substantive, but it's difficult, and you have to be on. And so I would come to work every day. I think what helped me to be successful is I approached my work with a servant's heart, and that's how I was raised. You
Mm,
know, it was a privilege to serve. It was a privilege to get up at 2:30, 2 o'clock. Do I miss that?
no.
Not at all. I am enjoying my sleep. Oh my gosh! But
For
it was
35 years, that's a
yeah,
getting up that early,
yeah,
and then you had to be at work. Your shift started at 5. Well, really, you probably
yeah,
had to
on
be at the
the
chair at
air. I had
4:45
to
or
go.
something.
Well, no, we had to be on the air at 5, but our shift is actually 3:30 to 11:30, and you had to go and prep and write. Between Pat and I, and between John and I, and Ken Herrera and I, when we were working together, they wrote a half hour and I wrote a half hour. And then we had writers come in after that. But the whole staff is just dynamic. I mean, these are people that I was privileged to work with. They made me better. They really
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And I think most people don't think that you guys have to write. They think you just sit
Oh,
down and read.
oh, write and run the board too.
Right,
And
you
my board back
do.
here is like just a quarter of the size of our boards. It's like flying an airplane.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know. I know. It's
you have
like
to
the
be
board
on.
is like what, like maybe like 2 yards or at least four
And not
feet.
everybody can do that. That
That's
takes
true.
some incredible manual dexterity. You've got to be thinking, and you've got a 20-page log to sign. It's a lot. I
I
mean,
know.
people would be dismissive. Oh, you're just in radio. It's incredibly ignorant. They just don't know it.
Yeah, they don't know what's happening behind the
Anybody.
scenes.
No, not at all. I would have invited anybody to come and watch. It's fascinating. And the cool thing, even up until the day I retired, I was still fascinated at BBM, at the
Okay.
equipment, and it carries such a powerful, those call letters are powerful. You can go anywhere in the country and somebody would say, well, where'd you come from? And you'd say BBM, and it's, oh, well, you know.
And you're heard in so many, people don't realize, I know at night, I believe it's heard in how many states? Because the signal
I
is,
forgot. It's pretty much around the country,
yeah,
across the country, and this is before the internet. You
yes.
were heard, and it's so funny is when I started out in overnights, and I'm thinking, okay, nobody's really listening, so if I mess up, maybe it won't be so bad.
Oh, they are.
And I had no idea. I
Yeah.
had no idea that the listening audience was so huge then,
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is.
Tell me, what is probably one of your most memorable moments? And I know you've probably had so many, but one of your most memorable moments working, being an anchor.
Oh, being an
or
anchor? Well,
co-anchor, co-anchor?
yes, a co-anchor. Wow, there are many. 9/11, the morning of 9/11, Pat Cassidy and I were co-anchoring, and
Mm,
I will never forget that. I never want to experience anything like that again. It was horrific,
yes.
and we were watching video of what was going on in New York in disbelief, but knowing we had the obligation and the responsibility to disseminate that information to our audience calmly,
Hmm.
even though we were freaking out. Um, I remember the morning that the United States bombed Libya and how scared everybody was that there was going to be retaliation from then Libyan strongman Muammar Gaddafi. And
Okay.
we learned that morning, this is when CBS was on McClure Court, and we learned that morning that Alexander Haig, who I think was then the Secretary of State, was
Mhm.
in the building on the third floor. And we were on the second floor. Channel 2 was on the first floor. And I remember them saying, my editor, hey, Alexander Haig is in the building. And we're like, what? And, we can talk to him. And they brought him down, and it was John Holtman and I at that time. And I remember he sat right beside me, and he had these really intense eyes. And, we were asking him questions, and it was really incredible. Fortunately, there wasn't a situation where there was retaliation, but that's what everybody feared at that time. Um, I also have very, very fond memories of being able to travel. I went to Rwanda, which is where
Okay.
I shot my documentary in 2004, 10 years after the genocide. And right
Mm,
now, I'm working on a film distribution project where we're going to um, be offering the documentary and an e-learning course to schools across the country. So I'm really excited about that. That's what I'm
it,
working on now.
okay.
Being in Uganda was another experience where I did some reports from the presidential palace and traveled with a Barrington, Illinois based nonprofit called Hands of Hope. And it was an incredible experience, life changing, you know.
That's
Um,
amazing.
Haiti was another one, traveling to Haiti. And seeing, the aftermath of the earthquake there in 2010, there are many, many stories like that that
Can
I
only
can,
imagine.
you know, fondly look on that I had the privilege of covering. Um, Talking to former President Jimmy Carter was really wonderful, a treat. Um, what a nice man, you know. Um, Tony Bennett,
Oh,
um, Patti LaBelle. Those are
oh,
some of my favorite interviews, that just dear to my heart.
yeah.
Wonderful people. Yeah.
That's amazing. Tell me this, when you hear the term fake news, what does that mean to you?
It makes my blood boil. It ticks me off because
Hmm.
we in this industry worked for it. We were educated for it specifically. We were trained to be observers. And
Hmm.
to have all of that hard work dismissed with a catchphrase, when people don't really understand how powerfully negative it is,
It
how
is.
hurtful it is.
Hmm.
Um, you know, that term has and that terminology has put a lot of journalists in danger, in physical danger.
Yeah,
And so it ticks me off. It angers me, because there's nothing fake about what we do.
I know. I know. Now, with you guys do straight, when at BBM, you do straight news. I mean, no
Right. Hard.
opinions, no,
No.
yeah.
Mm-mm,
Have you
none
ever thought
whatsoever.
about saying, you know what, maybe I kind of want to, when you look at some of the other news channels and they give the news, I call it infotainment, some of the other channels.
No, no, not
You
me.
don't want to, you never wanted to do it.
No. Oh, no, 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 no. I could never do that. Do we voice our opinions and do we get angry between commercials? Yeah, sure. You're welcome to spew off, during a commercial, but absolutely. That is, for me, it's unprofessional. My opinion is not important unless they're paying me to give my opinion. If you're a commentator or an analyst, yes, that's what you do. But if
Mhm.
you're a journalist, I got to give it to you straight, and with as much objectivity as possible, as is humanly possible. So,
Mm.
no, mm-mm.
Okay.
I've seen that trend and in our industry,
Yeah.
and it's disturbing to me.
Okay. Have
I'm
you
old.
ever, go ahead, say what?
No, I said I'm old school. I am. I'm more of
And
a
I hear
veteran.
some people who say, I just want the news. I don't want your opinion. I just want the
Yeah.
news.
Well, and that's what they should be getting, you
Right.
know. You know, there is one network that used to have the moniker or the phrase, "We report, you decide," and it should be that way, but that's not what they were doing, you know.
Hmm. Well, now, have you thought about ever? I know you're working on Salt Shaker Productions, your
Yeah,
production company, but
yeah.
have you thought about maybe sometimes being an analyst or a contributor or just on the side? If someone said, "Hey, Felicia, man, we'd love for you to just maybe be in a contributor or an analyst or
No,
something."
no, it's not something that I'm not going to say I would not entertain that, but that's not something that I've thought about because I am so overwhelmed with the projects that I've got from my company now. You know, this is a new life. I started Salt Shaker actually in 1996 or so. And in 1999 and 2000, I gave these events called, they were big seminars called Hollywood Comes to Chicago because I wanted to learn to be a screenwriter. And I thought, well, while I'm learning, pardon me,
Hmm.
I can bring other people up with me. And, you know, there are a lot of talented people in Chicago and in the Midwest who are caught between the two bookends, New York and LA, and they don't have
Okay.
connections. You know, they
Mhm.
don't know anybody. So I had attended a lot of seminars and I thought, this is crazy. I'm going to come home and I'm going to do this myself. And I was able to pull it off for 2 years, but it was so expensive. And I
Mm.
was doing it out of my savings and it was crazy. And, you know, I felt like Spike Lee, you know, I'm using credit cards and skipping payments and this and that, trying to put this thing together. And it turned out really well. The second year, the first year I had 10 guests from Hollywood and I had to fly these people in, you know, and a lot of them, well, what am I coming to Chicago for? It's cold. Well, it's summer. It's not cold, you know, it's okay. And then the second time I had 24 people and the late Harold Ramis was
Mm.
my guest 2 years running. And he was the most incredibly
Wow,
nice guy.
that's
He was a big
amazing.
listener to BBM too. And so we became friends and he gave me advice and it was wonderful, you know, and so I want to get back into doing that kind of thing at some point, but I've got so many projects that I'm working on now and I'm really excited about. But this is an adjustment. It really is.
I'm sure
And
it is.
shout out to all the, you know, the entrepreneurs, because this is not for the faint of heart. It really is not.
But let me say something. Again, your hard work while you are co-anchoring in the third largest market. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
You still have a company, a
yeah.
production company,
I know, right? It's just
and
like I
putting
don't
on
have
major
enough money.
events. Hard
But you know what?
worker.
I wanted to leave BBM, that my dream was to leave BBM on top and at an age where I was mature enough to have great wisdom, you
Mm.
know, from all the mistakes you make in life and the things you hear from your mentors and your parents and, you know, people around you. But I wanted to leave young enough to still be taken seriously, you know. Um,
Okay.
and so, because ageism is real, you know, but fortunately, where I'm going, you know, filmmaking, there's no limitation on your age for
Yeah.
that, you
Yeah.
know, in these kinds of projects. So I've got a lot of stamina and energy. I mean, you know, some of my friends, some of my sorority sisters have been teasing me. When I went back to school to earn my MBA, I was, what was I, 55 or something like that. And they were like, you know what? There is nothing about that that sounds attractive to me. Why are you going back to school? And I'm like, well, because I'm able to, and I'm just not real pleased with my business acumen. I want to be smarter. So
Mm.
I'm afraid of math, always have been, and
Okay.
I was raised that you know the best way to beat a fear is to face it, and so I went right into it, you know, and
Mm.
finish my degree. I didn't tell anybody because I was scared. I was scared. I
Wow.
thought, what if I don't make it, you know, and then I'll be embarrassed. So I just went on back to school and I'm so
That's
glad. And
amazing.
then after that, my sweet husband said, honey, don't go back to school anymore. Okay. And I said, okay. but I think I need to get a degree in film. So I went back.
Oh no.
I went back and in 2014 and earned a film degree. No, 2015 and earned a film
And
degree.
again, all while you're
Working.
co-anchor.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Top
sure
of your
did.
game, and you're still doing. That's amazing. That's just
Well,
amazing.
I don't have any kids, so I had a couple of Cocker Spaniels who have passed on now. Um,
Wow.
but life is short.
It is.
Life is
I'm
short.
learning that.
So if you want to do something, do it. And if you're scared, that's okay too, because I don't think I've done anything unafraid.
Mm,
I've always been nervous, but not so nervous that I didn't want to try it because, life is short. I don't want it. We're going through this life one time. That's
that's
it,
it.
that I know of, unless you know.
Look, this is not a dress rehearsal. It's
It
the real
really is
thing.
not. It really is not. And if God puts it on your heart and you have a dream, go for it. I don't care how old you are, you
Wow.
know,
That's
and
great
you'll
advice.
have the
Great
energy.
advice.
Yeah, you'll have the energy you need to sustain it to whatever that thing is. I
And I
really do.
love the fact that again, people are like, how is she stopping? Consistently number one. Consistently number one. Yet
I
you step down.
But you
You
know
step.
what? I give all the glory to God. And then we had great managers,
Mm,
great coworkers. I mean, it really is a well-oiled machine. And, there's no big you and little eyes. And, everybody played their role um, in it. And I was just happy to be just a part of it,
wow,
really.
that's amazing. I have to ask you this real quick.
Yeah.
I know you said starting out, it took them a long time before they really accepted you. I mean, it was a lot of challenges. So
Yeah.
when did people, because when I, started working there, of course, Felicia's up there, I'm down here. Okay, look, she's way up there, I'm down here doing traffic. But
Oh,
but all I heard was, well, Felicia said, well,
you're
Felicia
kidding.
doesn't. No, but in terms of they listened to you like you were the boss,
I
like
never
you
knew.
were the main person. Well, if
But I was
Felicia
not.
doesn't say it,
Yeah. I never saw myself as the stuff.
yeah,
I never
people.
looked at myself that way.
Yeah. So how long did it take before you noticed that they actually now they're listening to me? Now they really accept me as
Um,
being
wow, that's a tough
professional.
question. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes people who work with you, they know, they may not tell you, but
Okay.
you have to know who you are and whose you are. In my case, that's the way I looked at it.
Okay.
You know, um, but for me personally, my comfort, it took about a decade, because I used to go to work with like boxing gloves on. Well, okay, who do I have
Mm,
to defend myself against now? You know, the listeners were wonderful and kind. Um, I just I think it was just a period of adjustment for me,
okay.
but there are people who are going to love you and people who are not, and you have to be okay with that.
You really do. You really do. How has COVID changed you? Because you left right when it was
I
starting.
did. And you know what? I had this because I read everything and I was doing research. And I remember telling some of my coworkers, I said, guys, you better start buying masks because this thing, I just got this gut feeling it's going to get really bad. Oh, you just are taking this too far. And no, and I started ordering masks.
What
And,
about tissue? Did you order tissue?
no, 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 just I ordered gloves and masks because I
I
really,
mean, that was such a
what?
shortage. It was such a shortage to
Oh,
tissue.
toilet paper. Oh, no, no, I didn't do that at that time. I was more about the mask and gloves thing, because
Okay.
I just felt like it was, you couldn't have one without the other. I mean, people wear masks, but they're touching doors and
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm like, what
Hmm.
is that? So even early on, I started buying masks, and sure enough, I ended up having to give them to coworkers because they
See?
hadn't gotten them. And even my family, my sisters, I'm like, get them for your family now. Oh, we'll get around to it. And then one sister finally told me, I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you. I thought I had time, you know.
Isn't that
So
amazing?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Again,
So,
always ahead of your time. You're always ahead. You really are.
you know, but this COVID thing, I hope that we aren't dealing with it for another year, but it's not looking great. you
It's
know.
not. It's not at all.
I got vaccinated. I mean, I'm not fully vaccinated. I got my one shot. I get my next one next week. Um, my mom got fully vaccinated, and my family members are, on the way to doing that. But I think if we had taken it more seriously, with
Hmm.
direction from the top, and you know what
Yes.
I'm
Oh
saying,
yeah. Oh
we
yes.
would-
I
we would-
know.
we
I
wouldn't
know.
be.
It's hard to believe what's almost 600,000 people.
I know. Yeah,
600,000, and they're saying we're getting ready for another surge.
I hear. I
So
hear. Well, listen, I stay indoors. I don't
you're
go
here.
anywhere except to get gas, and we're still on COVID groceries, that we bought months ago. So I'm good,
Yeah, Instacart.
Yeah, whatever. Actually, no, I went and bulked up when people were going to big places like Costco and stuff, and just stored everything away like a
Oh,
squirrel.
you're good.
Yeah, we didn't want to be out there.
You really don't, but people are not taking it serious. But
No, you know what? I tell you one thing, Effie, after this is over in the year of our Lord 20 whatever, I'm
so
going to keep wearing gloves. I'm going to keep wearing gloves to pump gas for sure.
that's smart.
Even after.
That's smart. Because
Yeah.
so many things, you don't know what people are doing
I
now. It's
know,
so
right? Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. That's
Speaking of what people are doing,
yeah.
what's your thought about this current climate of our country? So
Oh,
much is happening.
we need such prayer. I tell you. I think a reckoning, which has been long overdue, is happening right now. I wish that the scales would fall from the eyes of those who refuse to see
Hmm.
what is very clear to everybody else. Our country, with the George Floyd trial, a lot of people, a lot of my friends were saying, it's too painful, I'm not going to watch it. And I
Mm-mm.
thought, but we have to, because in doing so, you're supporting his family.
Okay.
You think they want to go through this? It's a double hell for them, because
It
their
is.
loved one is really being tried twice. Um,
Mm.
it's hurtful, it's painful, but this, I think, um, will tell us everything we need to know about our American justice system. The outcome will tell it all.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, America, I mean, the world is looking at us.
Oh,
The
yeah,
world is looking.
absolutely. Do you know what I find interesting? There have been many nations, including Germany, who apologized, for the Holocaust, but America has never apologized for slavery. And we don't talk about reparations or healing or anything even close,
Mm-mm.
and we keep having these ugly episodes happen over and over again. And I think it's going to continue to happen until this country implodes. If someone, doesn't stop it, if we don't collectively stop it.
Yeah. And I know you're a woman of faith.
Yeah.
And I even think I was telling one of my supervisors where I work, I said, it's so interesting that a lot of the ministers and preachers that we hear, they talk about the Holocaust rather.
Mhm,
They
mhm.
talk about, everything else, but they never talk about slavery.
I
I
know.
never hear that.
And our Holocaust never stopped. Slavery really never ended. It just morphed into something more palatable. You know, we don't see Klan uniforms anymore, but
You see robes.
I'm going to stop right there,
You see,
because
I'll say it. You see robes. You see suit and ties.
yes, you do. Yes, you
Yeah, you
do.
see, you see a
Badges,
mask, not a hood, but
yeah,
a
and
mask.
briefcases and the whole 9 yards. Yeah, you
Yeah,
do. But
yeah.
at some point, we got to have that conversation, and that's the problem. Yeah, we can talk about all kinds of things. We talk around slavery, and the legacy of slavery.
And
Um,
that's even in the church, which is sad. The church won't even
yeah,
address it.
well, you know what? That's because racism has permeated every fiber of
God help
American
us.
fabric, and there really, I mean, what facet of American life can you talk about where you can't talk about inequality and discrimination and racism, you know? And
Mm,
when people talk to me about sexism and women's issues, you really can't talk about that unless you talk about um, racism and that component, the intersectionality of it. You
okay,
can't have one without the other.
okay. Real quick, I know we got to go. So Salt Shaker Production, what are you doing? You're working on what?
A lot of stuff, a lot of
You said
stuff.
an
It's a multimedia
e-course?
company. It's a multimedia company,
Okay.
and we're storytellers, podcasts. I've got one in development, got a couple in development, at voiceover projects and film, documentary, and feature. So lots going on.
Of course, I should have known that. Multimedia, what else? I mean, would Felicia Middlebrooks do but have
You know,
everything?
you know what? At the end of my life, I want the good Lord to say, she used everything I gave her. Everything. I'm
Yeah,
not leaving anything out. I mean, I'm doing a lot of stuff. And
Miles Monroe.
I'm enjoying it though. And
That's good.
everything I do, I want it to be for God's glory and to benefit other people, to empower other people, whatever it is I can do. And so that's what I'm here for.
Well, you are a boss lady, but Miles Monroe, the late Miles Monroe said,
I love him.
die empty. And that's what you are using it up for the
I'm
glory of God.
I'm trying. I
That
really
is
am.
amazing. That's amazing. So how can people hear? When will we hear about or how can they follow you? How can they
You know what? I'm on Twitter at Felicia Connects. I don't do a whole lot of social media. I just got on Instagram and haven't posted anything yet. I'm kind of
okay.
behind. But I am pretty active on Twitter at
Okay.
Felicia Connects. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thanks for
And
asking.
then when will we hear more about what you're doing in terms of your podcast, your
Stay tuned. I'll post something when it's time.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Felicia, for people who are maybe young folk
Mhm.
or even whoever, age has no number. It doesn't even matter now.
Yeah.
They're considering broadcasting or journalism or considering, getting in news. What would you say to them? Some young person,
Um,
that.
I would say, if that is truly your passion, go for it, get your degree,
Mhm, mhm.
but I would also tell them to always have something in your back pocket. you know don't think in terms of just one job, one focus.
Oh,
Do something else so that you have something else to fall back on, and then you create several revenue streams for yourself.
I
But
like that.
yeah, especially now. I mean, things back in the day when you and I were coming up, it was fine just to say, oh, this is what I'm going to do, that one thing, and that's it. But not anymore.
Not
Not
anymore.
anymore. And most people have more than one interest, correct?
This is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
This is true. But you would think, I used to think that because, my jobs were just kind of, but you think you being a top rated co-anchor, you
Yeah.
wouldn't have to worry about, having another job in your back pocket. But I will
Well,
say now, because things are so different
well,
and
not necessarily, and not necessarily for financial reasons either. For
okay,
me, I'm just one of those people that I have a very active, busy mind,
okay, okay,
and that's why journalism was perfect for me, this industry, because I get bored easily. I want to
okay,
be stimulated mentally,
okay. I
and
see.
everybody's not like that. Some people are just fine and dandy with one job. For me, I'm not happy unless I'm doing a lot of things.
Okay.
I've taken up knitting again, things like that. I knit to relax, so I'm still accomplishing something
I love
while
it.
I'm, having some downtime.
I love
Uh,
it.
yeah, I mean, but that's just my personality. That doesn't work for everybody.
She never stops. I love it. I
I
love
I
it.
can't. I can't. I
What is it?
just
Won't stop, can't
as
stop, don't stop. Did I?
long as it's all for good stuff.
It's all, yeah, again, you are a trailblazer, a boss lady. I feel like you should sing I'm Every Woman. I'm
You know what?
every woman.
Okay, don't get me started now. I
You
was a gospel
sing.
singer.
You sing,
I
right?
can absolutely, but I miss it. I sang in gospel choirs all my life, but at one particular church I belonged to, they had rehearsals on weekday nights,
Okay.
on weeknights, and so I couldn't go, and so I just dropped out. But I miss it. I miss singing.
Because, I told you, you look like Tasha Cobb's Leonard.
And I finally saw her, and oh my gosh, she's beautiful. So what
You
a
are
compliment.
too. Hello.
I wish I could sing like her.
Well, you might. We don't know. Maybe.
You know what? When I interviewed Patti LaBelle, I told her one of my dreams was to be a backup singer for somebody. And she said, girl, sing for me. And I was so scared I couldn't. I couldn't get anything out.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
just she and I in a studio.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
I
amazing.
love
That's
her. I love
amazing.
her. Yeah.
But you do look like Tasha. Just, I mean, you guys could be related. Maybe you should have
Maybe
Henry
it's
Louis
weird.
to do your
Maybe I get,
ancestry.
I'm sorry. I'm
Maybe you
sorry.
could have Louis Henry Gates to do your ancestry. You guys
It
might
would
be
be
related.
cool. Never know. Never
You,
know.
you
It's
might.
so nice talking to you and seeing you.
Yes, thank you for this time. You just don't know.
Sure.
In closing, I will just say that again, I was telling you how nervous I was just to
And
because
I
I
don't know
listen to you
why.
all the
You are
time.
fantastic. You are, and I tell you that all the time. Never negate. You may think you have a small job, but you don't. You don't.
But
Not
you're
at all.
iconic. You're iconic.
Yeah.
And let me just say this too. It's amazing when I feel like you inspire greatness because it's amazing. I was
Very
just so
kind.
nervous. I was telling my sister, I said, "Oh, I'm so nervous." She said, "Girl,
Really, I
relax."
can't be.
But no, but seriously, but it's amazing when you're around people who have a spirit of excellence.
Yeah.
It makes you want to come up because I was concerned. I said, I have to pronounce every word. I'm talking
Oh,
to
come on now. You know what? But we're simpatico, always have been. Like begets like.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you're wonderful. You thank you for this
You're
time.
wonderful. I
Thank,
appreciate it.
and thank
Thank
you
you.
for all that you do and for blessing so many. And we're waiting. I mean, I know you're resting right now. You're not resting because you're still
Oh
working.
no, are you kidding?
Yeah, you know.
You know what? I retired on a Friday on my birthday, and that was not
Oh,
planned. It just happened to be that way. And I gave myself Friday off and Saturday off, and by Sunday I was hitting the ground running again.
Lord, just let me get a little bit of her anointing. Just a little bit of your anointing. I love it, Felicia. Well, we are waiting to hear that podcast, to hear,
Okay.
I mean, and just see those documentaries, those
Yeah,
films.
yeah, I'm working on it.
I
But
know
give
it's
it
going to be
time.
on Netflix or
Oh
Amazon
my
Prime
God.
or
Well, I have
OWN.
you never know. I have a production office out in West Hollywood, so we'll see.
I'm sure. Trust me, I know. I'm going to give you a year, maybe a
Okay.
year, nothing
Okay.
that
All
long.
right. All
And I'll
right.
be
Game
saying,
on.
I talked to her. I talked to Felicia Middlebrooks.
All right.
Bless
Thank you.
you and keep up the great work. Thank you. We
Okay.
salute you
Thank
and we
you.
thank you.
All right. Love you.
Love you. God bless.
Okay.
Felicia
Bye-bye.
Middlebrooks, everybody. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.